What is up, guys? This is Messenger of Israel here. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to keep the Sabbath day part 2. So this will be the final part of the video on the topic on how to keep the Sabbath day, and I'm going to break down the misinterpretations of what the Christian used the scriptures of trying to justify themselves with not keeping the Sabbath day. And if you guys have not seen part 1, I highly recommend you guys to check out part 1. There's a lot of information in part 1, so you guys can have an idea on how to keep the Sabbath day and keep it holy and all that stuff. So with all this being said, let the video begin. For it is written in Matthew 12, verse 8, "For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day." So this is the main verse that most Christians will use to try to justify themselves from not keeping the Sabbath day. And then, like I said in part 1, that the Roman Catholic Church have no authority at all to be changing the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday, really, and all that stuff. But we're going to break this down in the full context, really, of the exceptions on the Sabbath day so people can get a clear understanding of what Jesus is actually talking about here and all that stuff. So with that being said, let's get to it. For it is written in Matthew 12, verse 1 through 4, so you guys can read this on your own. But what happened here is just like the disciples of Jesus were hungry and began to pluck the ears of corn and to eat on the Sabbath day. But when the Pharisees saw it, they said unto Jesus, "Behold, thy disciples do that which is not lawful to do upon the Sabbath day." Because, the disciples, what they were doing, they were just beginning to do some type of work of plucking the ears of corn and all that stuff. But Jesus said unto them, "Have you not read what David did when he was an hungered, and they that were with him? How he entered to the house of God, and did eat the showbread, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for them which were with him, but only for the priests, because the priests was allowed to only eat the showbread, not David and the others that were with him." So Jesus is bringing up the scenario what David did, really, just by going into the house of God just to eat the showbread because he was hungry on that Sabbath day, really. But we'll get into a little later on how the priests are actually blameless for doing that. But what Jesus brought up this scenario is that the priests are actually blameless for doing these things on the Sabbath day, and Jesus demonstrating to the Pharisees that he is the high priest, that he is the Lord of the Sabbath day. All right, verse 5 through 8. "Or have you not read in the law how that on the Sabbath days the priests in the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? But I say unto you that in this place is one greater than a temple. But if ye had known what this meaneth, I will have mercy and not sacrifice, you will not have condemned the guiltless. For the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath day." So this is what Jesus is trying to say. He is that priest. Actually, he is the high priest that is written in the book of Hebrews, really. So Jesus is saying he's blameless for allowing the disciples for pluck the ears of corn on the Sabbath day, really, and he brought up that scenario how, when David and the others entered into the house of God to eat the showbread, it was not lawful for David to eat that, but that was the only bread that was available at that time, really, on the Sabbath day. And then the priest from the tribe of Levi in the Old Testament ended up giving him the showbread anyway. And then the priest of Levi were actually blameless for doing that. So this is what Jesus was bringing up, that scenario. But I know the Pharisees, they denied the Messiah, really. Not all Pharisees, but I know there were some humble ones that accepted the Messiah. But understand that in this scenario that Jesus is blameless for actually doing this, you guys. All right, verse 10 through 12. So I'm going to let you guys read this on your own. But in this scenario, Jesus brings out that, it is lawful to heal on the Sabbath day. So if you guys are doctors, nurses, dentists, or doing any type of field that is just provides healing, so that means, you guys can still work on the Sabbath day because you are providing healing for the community. So always keep that in mind, you guys. And whenever you guys do have that Sabbath day off, have that Sabbath day off and rest from all of your works, really. And it also, if there's a family emergency as well, you guys, keep in mind that it is lawful to take somebody close to you to the hospital on the Sabbath day so they could get healing. It would be really unlawful for you to not to help out somebody close to you that are actually sick and all that stuff. And I know there is some cases that life happens, really, and God, he is very merciful. He's not like some dictator and be like, "Oh, you can't help this person out because they're sick." No, God doesn't operate like that. So always keep in mind, guys, and have wisdom when it comes to certain situations, really, when it comes to helping out your neighbors and stuff like that on a Sabbath. So another thing too is, for an example, if you guys come back from church worship on the Sabbath day. And then if you see somebody that has like a flat tire, and if you have the tools in your car, you can help that person out on the Sabbath day for them to get back on the road. And that's it, really, and all that stuff. So it is actually lawful to do well on the Sabbath day. And, remember the word says you love your neighbor as yourself and stuff like that. And I know it gets kind of challenging to like put two and two together when it comes to the topic of the Sabbath day, really. But if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comments. And I have to admit myself, this was tricky to try to interpret this correctly, really, and all that stuff. But yeah, with all this being said, though, I hope you guys have an understanding of the Sabbath day, really. If you guys have not seen part 1, I highly recommend you guys check out part 1. There's a lot of good information on how to actually keep the Sabbath day. And in part 2, this gives you the interpretations and of the exceptions, really, and break it down to misinterpretations that the Christian church uses to try to justify themselves of not keeping the Sabbath. And for all those Christians out there that are watching, you are still bound to keep the Sabbath day. Just because verse 8 says that for the Son of Man is the Lord even of the Sabbath day, that does not mean that you don't get to keep the Sabbath. For it is written in Isaiah 56, verse 2, Blessed is the man that doeth this, and the Son of Man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. So if you guys want to be blessed, keep the Sabbath day. Remember, guys, don't be buying and selling on the Sabbath day. That's type of evil, and that profanes the Sabbath. Don't be doing secular work that is not related to ministry work or healing, guys. And and always remember too, like, if those exceptions do arise, you guys, there are exceptions to that. Like, it is lawful to do well on the Sabbath day when it comes to taking care of somebody that got in, or taking care of somebody close to you that has been in a car accident, or if you guys coming back from a church and if you see somebody have a flat tire, you go out and change that tire if you have the tools to do so. And it's lawful to do well on the Sabbath day. That's like helping your neighbor. Alright, so that's pretty much it for part 2 for this one, you guys. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As well, if you guys are new to the channel, make sure well subscribe. And for all my Israelite brothers and elders out there, if I missed anything at all, feel free to drop it in the comments. I am still looking for moderators as I speak, you guys. And with all this being said, I hope you guys were really edified of this one on how to keep the Sabbath. And remember, guys, keep the Sabbath day holy. God loves you, and do what's right by him, And I'll see you guys in my next video. So bye-bye, guys, and stay safe.